Okay, this one should be quite a bit simpler than the last one, since it's just dealing with two phrases, both of which I hope that I'm familiar with by now. The first phrase that we're going to do is 있어요. Now, 있어요 effectively means I have. So if you were going to say I have water, you would say 물 있어요. If you wanted to say I have a pencil, you would say 연필 있어요. It just means I have the thing. Now, something that confused me for a long time is that it comes from the sort of root verb like this. Not like that, sorry, like that. Now, if we just take this character on its own, that has an S sound, like a S sound. And in fact, if you have both of them together, it's effectively a stronger S sound. So in this sentence, in this phrase, we have 있어요, because it's this double S character. And the reason why it's an S sound is because we have a consonant, which is here, coming up against a vowel. Now, this character has no sound. It's like a placeholder. It doesn't do anything. So we don't count that. So it's a consonant connected to a vowel, and therefore that will make a S sound. However, from the root verb, this is pronounced itta. So there's no strong S sound at all. And that's because we have this consonant here coming up against another consonant. So it kind of shortens that sound. So for the longest time, I would often mispronounce words because I assumed that a character like that is a hard S. So usually I'd pronounce this as ista, which is completely wrong. So because of this relationship with a consonant bumping into a consonant, it becomes a itta. The S, that S sound just disappears. So anyway, 있어요 is basically meaning I have, but it can mean different things based on different contexts. So if we take the simple phrase written like this, there we go, 물 meaning water. So if we have 물 있어요, all that means is there is water. You're saying water is here. But it could also mean just water exists, right? It could also mean I have water. So if someone says, what drink do you have? You say, 물 있어요, I have water. Or it could even mean they have water. So if someone says, what is that group drinking? 물 있어요, they have water. So it can mean similar, but slightly different things based on the context of the question asked, right? And of course, you can just put a question mark on the end. And it can become, is there water? Do you have water? Or do they have water? 물 있어요? So when you go to the pub, if you want some water, you can say 물 있어요? And they'll say, 네, 물 있어요. Meaning, do you have water? Yes, there is water. So it can mean the same thing based on the context. Now, you can use that for any noun, effectively. 친구 있어요, like I have friends, I have friends. 친구 있어요, with a question mark, do you have friends? 시간 있어요, is there time? I have time. It can all mean very similar things, but as always changes depending on the context. Now the opposite of 있어요 is this one here. It's slightly more complicated to write. Certainly not that. It would be written like that. Just like so. Now, as before, this character here had an S sound because it was coming up against a vowel. This character did not have an S sound, like a restricted sound, because it was coming up against another consonant. So here, again, we have a S character, effectively, coming up against a vowel. So this would be pronounced 없어요. So the S sound from here sort of travels and takes over this space, meaning 없어요, 없어요. And 없어요 is the opposite of 있어요, meaning don't have, doesn't exist. And we can do the same thing. Certainly not that, but we can do that and we can do that. So you go to a restaurant or something and you say 물 있어요, meaning do you have water? And they can say 아니야, 물 없어요. There is no water. And of course the same rule of context applies to 없어요. So you could say 물 없어요, there is no water, I don't have water, they don't have water. Or 시간 없어요, there is no time, I don't have time, we don't have time. So it's the same phrase, but it can be adapted for different situations. Now, something which I hope I remember from the last one is using the topic particle in order to emphasize something. So if we take 시간, which is time, which I hope is written like that. Yeah, so if we could say 시간 없어요, which effectively means there is no time. I don't have time. If you're gesturing to a group of people, I assume you could say, they 시간 없어요, they don't have time. But if we put a subject particle, that's wrong. A topic particle, like, if I remember, it should be which is like this. Bear with. Here we go. Because I believe this is the ending, this is the topic particle ending that we use if the character ends in a consonant, which it does. I have to check that. I find it so easy to mix them up. But if we look here, yeah, if it ends in a consonant, then we have the character. So 시간, meaning time, ends in a consonant, which is here. Therefore, we use the topic particle ending with the sort of consonant suitable. So if we say 시간 없어요, you're basically saying, it's kind of like inflection. You're saying, I don't have time, which suggests you have other things, but time is the one thing you don't have. You know. However, it seems here, if we wanted to make 시간 the subject of the sentence, we would say 시간이 없어요. Like that. So we have two sentences both dealing with time. But in this case, time is the topic, and in this case, time is the subject. And I think that makes it, it seems it's the same thing. You're saying, like, I don't have time. I think I understand. If somebody says something like, what don't you have? You're literally saying, time is what I don't have. But if you're just generally saying, I don't have time, but you're implying you have something else, then you can use this topic particle. But I think the subject particle is probably used in conjunction with somebody asking you a specific question about it. So if it says here, if someone asks, what is it that you don't have? Or what are you saying you don't have? You would say, 시간이 없어요. You're saying time is what I don't have. But if somebody if someone was just chatting to you and you were complaining about something, you could say 시간은 없어요. So it's like, I don't have time, but you're implying that you have other things. I believe that's the case. See, when you translate both of these into English, they effectively say the same thing. It's just, it all comes down to nuance and context, I suppose. But obviously you can use both the topic and the subject, and then you can apply the obsoyo or, of course, the issayo onto the end. So I think from this one, what I need to study more is the difference in nuance between these two phrases, because they're both saying the same thing, but the fact that time is a topic compared to time being a subject, it's going to be interpreted differently. But luckily, that's an incredibly short chapter, and issayo, obsoyo, but I use all the time. I hear it all the time. So it's not too difficult to forget. The only other thing that I need to remember is the pronunciation of things like this. That when we have a consonant-consonant pair or a consonant vowel pair, it creates a different sound. Anyway.